You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
You are tapped in, so let's get right to it. American farmers, all right, based on reports from early 2026, some white farmers are experiencing frustration with President Trump, primarily due to economic hardships stemming from trade policies and labor shortages. And for a lot of us, we know what that means, labor shortages. That has to deal with the immigration issue or policies of Donald Trump in terms of the migrant or the immigrant workers who come and tend to the fields for these white farmers. Those shortages have put these white farmers in a position where they're feeling not just the pinch, but the bite of these policies from the Trump administration. All right. Now, despite overall high levels of support for him, these farmers still are saying, hey, we're not liking any of this that is going down. So whether or not that will affect Trump's MAGA base has yet to be seen. It hasn't played out yet. But by all accounts and purposes, there is this movement that is developing with farmers, especially, those farmers that help feed the country. They are rising up. They are not just frustrated, disgruntled with President Trump, but they are outright pissed with Donald Trump and his policies, and more importantly, the promises that he made to them that he has up to this point have not fulfilled. Now, let's keep in mind that the trade wars and tariffs reimposed tariffs, during Trump's second term, this term, have caused significant and widespread economic distress for a lot of these white farmers, with some reports noting soybean prices dropped from over $16 to under $8 a bushel, leading to some of the worst financial conditions for agriculture since the 1980s. We're talking about, hey, almost 50 years ago. They haven't seen nothing like this since then. All right. So that means a great deal. Now, in terms of failed promises, many farmers feel that promised bailouts were inadequate, delayed, or did not materialize, with reports suggesting some federal relief intended for white farmers actually went to foreign countries. Now, that money that they didn't get or is held back or, it's still coming down the pipelines, most of that money probably did go to Israel. Okay. Just, facts. Now, our politicians are the politicians, especially for some of these white farmers, Republican and Democrat, have decided that they would rather send Israel billions, tens of billions of dollars for military hardware and things of that nature, their tech development and stuff like that, rather than spend that money or use that money here in these United States to help these farmers. What is going to play out, or what seems to be occurring or will occur very soon, is that the effects of this money not being put forth or promised to farmers, white farmers like Trump did, we're going to see the effects of the decrease in farmland production in the stores. We're going to see it in the stores. That's for sure. There's a lot, again, going on with this. There are a lot of narratives and propaganda being spoken in terms of these farms not having adequate labor to pick the crops before the crops rot or spoil in the field. One of the things, or one of the conversations evolving around this whole thing, is that white farmers had or were under the impression that blacks would return to the fields. Now, this is not a widespread conversation. I don't think, or we don't think, that most white farmers looked at the situation like that. Most of them looked at the situation, well, okay, yeah, immigration, these policies are going to hurt us, but to what extent, we don't know. We're pretty sure that most of these white farmers also are transitioning to technology in terms of harvesting their fields. They're using AI and machines combined to go through the fields and, pick the produce or the vegetables that need to be harvested before they spoil. So we see that, or we think that a lot of these farmers are making that transition to that because they understand that one, the migrant worker is not going, the labor force anywhere that that population is not going to be able to um, bring them the labor they need to pick these crops in time before they spoil. So they are preparing for this transition, to go to using machines, not new ideas, new technology for harvesting these crops. Pretty sure most of them think black's not coming back to the field. Well, especially with the amount of money they're talking about paying in the field, $11 an hour or something like that, with 10-hour days. There is those stories being floated around now for sure. I don't know of many blacks who are willing to do that. $11 an hour, even 15 to 18 to $20 an hour. No, that type of labor and that type of heat for those amount of hours would not suffice for a lot of black people. So that being said, yeah, they are dealing with, again, these failed promises. Many farmers feel that, again, the promises of bailouts were inadequate, delayed, or just did not materialize. All right. There is a loss of market as a result of all this. The retaliatory tariffs that Trump put on, countries put back on Trump, in retaliation. Places like China, they have severely limited export markets for U.S. crops. So yeah, this is it's going to be a domino effect. It's going to end up, affecting everybody in some form or fashion. The actual labor crisis, though, the acute labor shortage in America, agriculture is widely documented as being driven by a lack of domestic workers, regardless of race and strict immigration policies. But again, so there is that talk. There are white farmers saying, hey, wait a minute. We were under the impression that, okay, if we got rid of, or if we allowed you or went along with you getting rid of illegal migrant workers, that they will be replaced. And a lot of these farmers have said it out loud. They would be replaced by black field hands. That didn't materialize as neither. So now they're really upset with Donald Trump. And a lot of them are actually upset with black people for refusing to return to the fields and take up that slack, that gap, void that's been left by migrant workers or illegal immigrants who were working the fields before Donald Trump, ICE, and Border Patrol came and removed most of them. So the shift in the labor force is something to do, to really pay attention to. We're going to see how that is going to play out. Then there's the reliance on foreign labor. So the agricultural industry heavily relies on the H-2A guest worker program, which is costly, complex, and currently facing scrutiny. Now, the H-2A program is this program Donald Trump started where he has shipped in white South African farmers to come to America and do what American farmers are doing. I think that's going to be also a problem in the very near future with those farmers who have been here for generations, seeing, okay, now we got other farmers, basic competitors, and the federal government is giving them money, assistance, in helping to prop up their farms rather than help deal with our problem. That's going to be a problem for Donald Trump. That's going to be a problem. And again, so it's not in mainstream media just yet that his support is slipping in terms of the MAGA base or those Republicans who have supported Republican presidents, regardless of what their policies have been, whether they hurt them or not. That is going to change, and we think sooner rather than later, because we're talking about people's livelihoods, and not only that, but we're talking about their heritage, legacies, for their children's children. All these things seem to be falling by the wayside, and these farmers, these white farmers, are beginning to see that in real time. Now, there's that. The federal government, man, the USDA, they go and they have made attempts to correct some of the problems that these white farmers are dealing with or is having. Now, in the process of that, what they've done is shut out black farmers. they banned black farmers from being a part of these programs where, the federal government is helping to bail out, felling white farms. Black farmers, though, do not have the same um, support in terms of resources to keep their farms up and running. There is, just for context, in terms of these agricultural issues, displacement of black farmers, there are reports that indicate black farmers are being shut out again of the USDA resources and land ownership, with some losing their land while white farmers are prioritized for aid. So yeah, there's that discrimination. It exists. It is in full effect. Now, that being said, I wanted to get to these clips I have for you guys because I don't think, most of you guys really know what's going on. All right. For whatever reason, social media doesn't really play, those clips, TikTok clips, Instagram or whatever, that speak to the real issues a lot of these white farmers are having with this agriculture issue in terms of labor. All right. Now, again, white farmers are starting to point the finger at Donald Trump. And that's not necessarily new in terms of presidents, catching the anger and the animosity of farmers because farmers feel like the federal government is not supporting them. But the thing is, what's actually new about this is that they're not, again, they're placing blame on Trump, but now they're placing blame on black people because they refuse to go to the fields, become field hands, pick produce, fruits and vegetables. So I have this clip. I want to bring this clip in for more context. Before I do, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the Art of Political Discourse. You are tapped in. We appreciate your participation and viewership. Again, allow us or help us to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of this month. We've done fairly well, and we appreciate everyone who's involved themselves with this channel and assisted us in reaching the mark that we are at currently. So again, thank you. That being said, let's get to these clips. Very insightful. Very insightful. All right. These are white Idaho farmers furious as black workers refuse farm labor and they're going bankrupt. All right. But why put the blame on black people? Put the blame where it needs to be.
It's at that point where we need help. I guess we're sounding the alarm.
All of us farmers have officially fucked around and we have officially found the fuck out now, guys. I am on the verge of bankruptcy. I'm on the verge of tears. Overnight, all of my help fled. My help, out of fear for their safety, their lives, they fled. And now I am left out here standing in my unharvested carrot field.
There's stories all over the.
That's those migrant workers who say, okay, you know what, Donald Trump, and actually, if it was thought of or dealt with like a good, plan or strategy for migrant workers or, those who, band together and say, okay, we are a necessity. Let's show them how much so. That's a good way to do it. You may end up having Trump under pressure reverse those immigration policies that he has put in place in terms of migrant workers or, immigrants, illegal or otherwise, who pick the fruit and produce of this country.
Internet about farmers going bankrupt across the country. And I want you to know, I want to feel sorry for you. I'm struggling. I'm struggling to care at all. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, because typically I have empathy, but I'm really, really tired of telling you farmers and you people that are in rural parts of the United States, I'm tired of telling you what your vote does to you. Yeah, I mean, you guys in the red states, you keep doing the same thing over and over again.
And again, they have to accept blame for their position or the predicament that they're in. They voted for Donald Trump. They voted for Donald Trump in spite of what people, especially black people, were telling them was going to happen if Donald Trump got into office. And they looked at us and like, what do you guys know? And okay.
And you're broke. You don't have any money. West Virginia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, You get my point. You're broke. And yet you keep voting for the Republican Party that wants nothing to do with you. And farmers, guess what? You're included. But you keep voting red, and now you want me to feel sorry for you. I'm sorry. I just can't.
I'm a black farmer, and a lot of people are wondering, why are black farmers not panicking like a lot of white farmers? Well, let me explain to you the reasons why. It's because white farmers have been handed everything to them, a lot of them. Not saying all of them, but a good bit of them. And by that, I mean this. MLK even pointed out, he says, farmers in the West and the Midwest who were white, they were given land, they were given money, they were given training, they were given a lot. Whereas the black farmers weren't given anything. And the largest civil rights settlement in U.S. history is Pickford v. Glickman, where you had a class action lawsuit, bunch of black farmers all joined the lawsuit, and they won a huge settlement because the USDA was shown to be racist for decades. So because black farmers haven't been given anything, we've been learning to do without, unlike your white farmers.
Now, I have to say, isn't that the story? Isn't that what we hear a lot about? So, again, they weren't given anything. And yet they, don't get it twisted. Some of them are probably feeling the effects of what's going on in terms of, the immigration issues, the policies. Some are probably feeling the effects of not being included with this USDA program, where, the federal government helps some of these fledgling farms to sustain themselves or get back up, But for the most part, a lot of black farmers do not receive these subsidiaries, these programs, or these bailouts and support from the federal government like white farmers do. And as a result, they're not feeling it as much as their white counterpart.
So when things are taken away from you, all your subsidies, all your tax breaks, guess what? You panic. Whereas we've always been going through this shit.
It's just been harder and harder and harder to find those people to work.
She says hiring undocumented workers is not an option, with serious risks for both sides.
One, you're going to get fined. You have unfortunately, an employee living in fear. They could get picked up at any moment, and then you're without an employee.
To keep her farm running, Gotts is hiring high schoolers and is now looking into the federal H-2A visa program.
I have endeavored to spend $200,000 to build a small worker housing so that I can get H-2 workers next year.
This woman had $200,000 lying around that she could have used to pay some strapping young Idaho corn-fed boys to do the manual labor on her farm, but instead built temporary housing for visa workers. I never thought I'd live to see the day where liberal media was telling people, are you unwilling to pay Americans a fair and decent living wage for hard manual labor?
Now, again, the H-2A is that program, that federal program Donald Trump started, where they are importing white South African farmers to the United States to do the work of farmers who are already here.
Just import a bunch of people to do it for way cheaper and then put them in a house and they can't go anywhere else because what other option do they have?
Wait, you mean to tell me Americans don't want to pick lettuce for $2 an hour? No. Now the farmers are crying because they can't find any workers. Ain't that something? After you pushed out all of the immigrant workers who actually did the job, now you're standing around wondering why Chet and Kaylee won't come pick your cabbage in 100-degree weather for $4.75 and a Capri Sun. Y'all really thought folks were going to jump at the chance to break their backs for pennies on a dollar. Hey, but you know what's even funnier, y'all? Some of these farmers say the American workers they do get, they don't even last the whole damn day. One guy said somebody walked off by luck, and honestly, I support it. Listen, I wouldn't be out there picking strawberries and fighting bees and being dehydrated just so that farmer could sell those strawberries for $12.99 a box at Whole Foods. Negative. See, they've been telling you this lie for years. They took our jobs. Nah, Americans, you didn't want those jobs. You just didn't want them to have the jobs either. Now look at you, a field full of crops and not a soul to pick them. Next time, think twice before turning labor into a culture war. Because now it's just you and your own damn tomatoes.
So President Sunny D promised to fix the job market by deporting 11 million undocumented workers. Like it was a new binge series, ICE.
But let's keep it 100. 11 million undocumented workers have not been deported. They didn't even scratch the surface of that, to tell you the truth. Those individuals are still here somewhere doing something else. All right. Let's get it straight. Let's just, put that out there. All right. They have not deported 11 million illegal migrant or immigrants from, the United States of America. They are still here.
Special victims of common sense. Megatron told black voters, Mexicans are taking your jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were all going to add day laborer to our resumes by Monday morning.
They took our jobs. Like we were going to run to the fields and give us our jobs back, you Mexicans. No.
But guess what? More farm bankruptcies in the first quarter than all of 2024 combined.
Mm-hmm.
Farmers are begging for help. And Commander Coppertone, he sent ICE back out, even stricter, because clearly the problem was too many workers keeping the economy alive. Turns out crops don't pick themselves, restaurants don't staff themselves, and black folks, they aren't lining up to break their backs for $10 an hour with no benefits just because Trump ran out of scapegoats. They thought they could swap immigrants for Job Corps-less inner city youth, the same ones they underfund, over police, and call thugs on TV.
That's right.
This was never about jobs. It was about villains, about vibes. Really, it was all about votes. But now, capitalism's on line one, and it wants its workers back. Now make that make sense.
The New York Times came out with this article, and everyone keeps asking why U.S. farms rely on immigrant workers. And the truth is, this is not new. It's literally American history repeating itself. Politicians promised that cracking down on immigration would create an all-American farm workforce. But now the government is quietly expanding the H-2A visa program, which brings temporary immigrant farm workers to the U.S. because farmers say they can't find enough domestic labor. And if this sounds familiar, it's because, guess what? We've done it before. From 1942 to 1964, the U.S. ran the Bracero program, bringing millions of Mexican workers to American fields for that exact same reason, because the agricultural economy depended on immigrant labor. So when we talk about farm labor today, we're not seeing something new. We're seeing a cycle that the U.S. has repeated for decades.
Wow, so many things in that video. Okay, first, what she actually meant was illegal immigrant workers, because she does later on say that she is now being forced to apply for the H-2 visa program, and she's actually building, I believe, spending up to like $200,000 building these living quarters for the people if she can bring them over on the H-2 visa. So here's what happens on these farms. By the way, this has been a thing for a very long time. So this actually happened back in 2021, I believe. And what happens are they rely on this work from illegal immigrants, and then they get used to that whole situation. And now when that situation changes, they now have to figure out what to do. So they can pay lower wages. They bring down the wages, which basically makes that the norm in that industry. It lowers the wages. And also, if you're hiring people that are undocumented, you don't have to abide by labor laws. And some of the conditions, and I'm not saying hers, but on these farms that have been investigated here in the U.S. are, not good. And it says farm workers in the U.S., especially immigrant workers, have few protections. They were excluded from the National Labor Relations Act passed in 1935 and from the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. Workers in America's agricultural fields are regularly subjected to abuses, high occurrences of and harassment, wage theft, including injuries, fatalities, being exposed to hazardous situations, all of these things.
Seeing a lot of cattle farmers and farmers in general online crying today. And I'm sorry to tell you, but I think the United States government is trying to bankrupt farmers. I think they're trying to bankrupt farmers because you all won't be able to pay your note because you're not going to be able to sell that cattle like you did last year. You're not selling any soybean because China has went to a totally different market, but you still owe your bank notes. I think they are intentionally trying to bankrupt you so that they can come and purchase your farms from the banks. When the banks say give us our money, we don't care what's happening in the. What's your problem?
But what are they going to do with that land? So say for instance, what she's saying is true. All right, that the U.S. government is intentionally trying to bankrupt farmers in America. So you bankrupt the farmer, the bank confiscates the land or takes the land, then what? The bank sells the land. Who are they selling it to? Back to the government. And if that's the case, why is the government going to buy the land? So if any of you been paying attention, and I know that you have, did you know that the United States government, they are building these data centers all over the country, and they need large swaths of land, acreage, all right, where they're building these environmentally unsafe data centers. Uses up a lot of energy, makes a lot of noise, that may be it. She may have hit the nail on the head with that one. So the American government, the United States government, does need for these tech companies. They would probably, make it available by doing what they're doing, bankrupting farmlands or farmers, and then the bank putting this land up for sale. The tech companies, the AI companies, all these, they come in, they buy this land, and then they establish these huge data banks that are just miles and miles, take up acres, that may be it. That may be it. I don't know.
Problem was you wanted to own the libs instead of owning your farm. You voted for hate instead of voting to keep your farm. Our reality is, even if you make it out of this with your farm, when the elections come next year, you're still going to vote for the same thing because you're only concerned with how things affect you. To hell with the rest of us.
And that may be the reason why a lot of them are going through what they're going through, because they're not voting. They're conscious in terms of, okay, taking care or keeping this family heirloom, this heritage legacy going. They're thinking in terms of not just politics, but racism, white superiority. They think that they are in because they're white, and chances are they're wrong. They're very wrong, unless you have buku amounts of money. If you're part of the 1%, that's when it only matters. You're just doing a service. There's a hierarchy in society. Okay, there is a hierarchy. So that may be the plan. Who knows what's going to come of this, whether or not the American government, the Trump administration, is intentionally attempting to bankrupt or put into bankruptcy U.S. farms and farmers for the purpose of the banks coming in, confiscating that land because they can't pay for the land, and then turn around and sell this land, this farmland, like I say, just vast amounts of land, to tech companies, AI companies. These companies need that land to start establishing these fields of data banks that they need to support the new technological system that is in place, or that we'll see in place by 2030. Something to think about, all right? Now, for the most part, white farmers, don't be mad at black people, okay? Don't be mad at black people. Be mad at yourselves. Be mad at yourselves. But like the young lady said, chances are that come next voting cycle, presidential, in 2 years, you guys will do the same thing again. Just insane, right? You keep doing the same thing over and over again, getting the same result. And for whatever reason, you will not stop yourselves from committing this suicide, this suicide that you are involved in. Now, again, it remains to be seen what's going to really take place with this farm issue, but we think here at TAP that issue is a foregone conclusion. The American farmland, the heritage of America's farmland, we think is falling to the wayside. There's something else taking place that will take place that will eliminate maybe half of the majority of these farms, and those farms will be replaced by some sort of technology or technological facility. That's what we think. All right, so that's what you think. Put your thoughts in the comments. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let us know where you stand on this issue of immigration slash, agricultural labor. Is the farmer at fault? Do you blame the migrant worker for running scared? Or do you see Black Americans, African Americans as part of the problem because they aren't willing to go back into the fields? Again, let us know what you think. Put your thoughts in the comments, and please like, share, follow, and subscribe. You are tapped in. Take care of yourselves and one another.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.